Welcome, everyone, to the 21st Century Man podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really critical topic. It's straight from the book, The 21st Century Man.
That's right. We're focusing specifically on Chapter 44, The Truth About Tobacco.
Yeah, think of this as your shortcut to understanding a major piece of the men's health puzzle.
And our mission really is to pull out the key insights from this chapter about tobacco use. We want to give you the essential facts, the stuff you really need to know.
And maybe some actionable takeaways, too.
Exactly. It's a powerful chapter on a really significant issue.
What I find interesting is the author's perspective. It's Dr. Judson Brandeis. He's a urologist.
Right, so that gives it a slightly different angle, maybe covering aspects you don't always hear about, including, sexual health implications.
And the book itself, The 21st Century Man, it's just a fantastic resource. Really tackles the health challenges modern men face. This chapter is a prime example.
Absolutely. And it kicks off with a pretty stark statement.
It does.
Tobacco companies kill their best customers. That just sets the tone, doesn't it, for a very frank discussion.
No kidding.
Oh.
Okay, so let's get into it. Dr. Brandeis shares this really compelling story right at the start.
Yeah, about a patient of his, another medical professional, actually.
Right, who'd been smoking since he was young, like 16, after immigrating.
Yeah.
Worked his way through school, stressful job, just developed this long-term habit.
And had tried to quit multiple times, apparently.
Yeah, struggled with it.
Mm.
But the turning point, this is fascinating. Dr. Brandeis knew the guy loved his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So he pointed out, look, smoking a pack a day, that could cost you something like 13 years of your life.
13 years, time you wouldn't have with your daughters.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Dr. Brandeis suggested this really direct, almost confrontational intervention.
The sign, right?
Yeah. A sign on his daughter's bedroom doors that just said, 13 years lost.
Wow. That's intense.
Super intense.
Yeah.
But apparently that constant visual reminder, seeing it every day,
Mm-hmm.
it worked. He quit soon after.
It really shows you the power of that personal connection, doesn't it? Finding the why behind quitting.
Absolutely. And that story really drives home the human cost, which the chapter then backs up with some, pretty staggering data.
It really does. It flat out states that tobacco use is the leading preventable cause of death. Not just here in the U.S., but worldwide.
Preventable, that's the key word.
And the numbers.
Yeah.
In the U.S. alone, we're talking at least 480,000 deaths every single year.
480,000. It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
It is. And the chapter breaks down how those deaths happen, which paints a clearer picture of the damage.
Right. What are the main causes?
So roughly 40% are from cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, that kind of thing.
Okay.
About 35% are from various cancers.
Mhm.
And the remaining 25% are from lung diseases like COPD and emphysema.
So it's attacking the body in multiple ways. Heart, lungs, leading to cancer.
Pretty much everywhere. And when you look at who's most at risk, there are some clear patterns.
Like being male, right. The chapter
Maybe.
points that out.
Definitely. In the U.S., it's about 26% of men using tobacco compared to 14% of women. That's a big difference.
And globally, it's even starker.
Yeah, globally, the gap is wider. Around 25% of men are daily smokers versus only about 5% of women.
Wow. And the chapter also mentions age and income.
Right. In the U.S., younger adults and those in, let's say, less affluent groups tend to have higher smoking rates, which, brings up issues about health disparities.
Absolutely. Okay, so why is tobacco so hard to quit? The chapter dives into the science of addiction, right? Genetics play a big role.
A huge role. It's actually quite surprising. Research suggests that something like 75%, three-quarters of the initial tendency to even start smoking might be genetic.
75%. Just to start?
Just the inclination to try it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. Genetics also influence about 60% of the likelihood of becoming addicted if you do start.
Yeah.
And even over 50% of your ability to successfully quit later on.
So it's really not just about willpower. There's a strong biological component.
Absolutely. That's a crucial takeaway. It's not a moral failing. It's a biological challenge for many.
And the cigarettes themselves are, engineered for addiction.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You've got the nicotine, of course, which is the main addictive drug. It triggers dopamine release in the brain, that pleasure chemical.
Similar to other addictive drugs.
Yeah, the chapter compares its effect to heroin and cocaine in terms of hijacking those brain pathways.
Wow.
But it's not just the nicotine. Tobacco smoke has over 7,000 chemicals. Some are added, some are naturally occurring, and many of them enhance nicotine's addictive effects or make quitting harder.
7,000.
And the fact that, at least 75% of cigarette smokers smoke every single day just shows how powerful that addiction becomes.
And starting young is a major factor.
Huge factor. The chapter states that almost every adult smoker started before they turned 18.
Right.
And starting younger means you're much more likely to continue into adulthood, and it makes it significantly tougher to quit later.
So the addiction gets wired in early. And you mentioned nicotine's role. The companies know this, right?
Oh, absolutely. The chapter is very clear. Tobacco companies intentionally design cigarettes with levels of nicotine specifically calculated to create and sustain addiction. It's a deliberate part of the product design.
That's pretty damning. And it connects directly to the marketing aspect.
It does. The numbers here are mind-boggling. The industry spends around $10 billion a year. Billion. With the B on marketing.
$10 billion promoting these products.
While making roughly $35 billion in profit just in the U.S. each year, it shows you the immense financial engine driving this.
It's a massive industry working against public health efforts. Okay, let's shift to the physical harms. The cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels. How bad is the impact?
It's profound. Smoking is a direct cause of heart and blood vessel disease. The risk of a heart attack, what doctors call an acute myocardial infarction, goes way up the more you smoke and the longer you smoke.
How much higher?
The chapter specifically mentions men smoking at least a pack a day have a 3 times greater incidence of heart attacks.
Threefold increase. That's significant. And even light smoking isn't safe.
Not at all. Just 1 cigarette a day is linked to a 50% higher risk of coronary heart disease and a 25% higher risk of stroke.
50% from 1 cigarette a day.
It's not trivial. And the mechanisms, smoking does several things. It increases your LDL, the bad cholesterol.
Okay.
It activates your stress response constantly, raising your heart rate and blood pressure.
Right.
It causes inflammation and directly damages the walls of your blood vessels, making them narrower and stiffer. That's vasoconstriction.
Less flexible, harder for blood to flow.
Exactly. And then there's the carbon monoxide you inhale. It reduces how much oxygen your blood can carry, so your heart has to work harder and your tissues get less oxygen.
So it's starving the body of oxygen while damaging the delivery system.
That's a good way to put it. And the end result. The chapter estimates smoking causes about 20%, 1/5 of all deaths from heart disease.
1 in 5 heart disease deaths linked to smoking. Wow. Does it mention other tobacco forms here? Pipes, cigars?
It does note that while they aren't risk-free, the cardiovascular risks from things like pipes, cigars, and smokeless tobacco are generally considered less severe than from cigarettes, but still risky.
Okay. Let's talk about cancer. This is the link everyone knows, but the details are probably worse than most people realize.
They really are. That tobacco smoke we mentioned, with its 7,000 chemicals, at least 250 of those are known to be harmful.
And many are actual carcinogens.
70 known human carcinogens. Chemicals proven to cause cancer.
70. And the list of cancer smoking causes is long.
Extremely long. Think about where the smoke touches or where the chemicals circulate. Mouth, throat, larynx, esophagus.
The whole pathway down.
Right. Then lungs, obviously, but also stomach, colon, pancreas, kidneys, bladder, liver, cervix, rectum, even a type of blood cancer, acute myeloid leukemia.
It just seems to affect almost everything.
It gets everywhere through the bloodstream. And lung cancer, of course, is the big one.
The #1 cancer killer, right?
Still the #1 cancer killer in the U.S. and worldwide. And smoking is far and away the leading cause. The chapter says smokers have a 30 times higher risk of lung cancer than non-smokers.
30 times. That's just an incredible increase in risk.
It's almost hard to comprehend. It basically means if you smoke, your odds of getting lung cancer are astronomically higher.
Okay, beyond heart disease and cancer, what other health problems does the chapter link to smoking?
Oh, there's quite a list. It's a major cause of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis.
Right, breathing difficulties.
Exactly. It worsens asthma. It increases your risk for diabetes, for osteoporosis, weaker bones, also rheumatoid arthritis.
Autoimmune diseases too.
Yeah. And eye problems like macular degeneration and cataracts. Plus, smokers just get sick more often, higher risk of pneumonia, tuberculosis, other airway infections.
So it just weakens your whole system's defenses.
That's a really good summary. It undermines overall health and resilience. And this ties into another point the chapter makes, how smoking affects treatment for other diseases, especially cancer.
How so?
Well, unfortunately, smokers who get cancer tend not to respond as well to treatment compared to non-smokers.
Really? So continuing to smoke actually makes the treatment less effective.
Yes. They often experience more recurrences, more complications. Smoking hampers the immune system's ability to fight infection. It slows down wound healing.
Which is crucial after surgery or radiation.
Absolutely. It increases cardiovascular risks during treatment and just generally raises the odds of the cancer coming back or new cancers developing.
Man, that's a bleak picture. But thankfully, there's hope if you quit.
Wait.
The chapter really stresses the benefits, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is maybe the most important message. The benefits of quitting are huge, they're well proven, and they start almost immediately, no matter your age.
That's encouraging. So the body can heal.
It has a remarkable capacity to heal. The cardiac risks, for example, start dropping within just a few years of quitting, and they keep dropping.
How long does it take for heart risk to get back to, say, a non-smoker's level?
After about 10 to 15 years of not smoking, the risk of heart disease becomes pretty much the same as someone who never smoked.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What about cancer risk? Lung cancer specifically.
That takes longer, but it also decreases significantly. Quitting for over 15 years reduces your lung cancer risk by about 80%, not zero, but a massive reduction.
80% reduction. Still emphasizes how important it is to never start, but fantastic news for quitters. And life expectancy.
You literally gain years back. The chapter cites data showing adults who quit gain, on average, 6 to 10 years of life.
Wow, does it depend on when you quit?
Yes. Quit young, gain more. Quit between 25 and 34, you add about 10 years. Quit between 35 and 44, add about 9 years. Even quitting between 55 and 64 adds about 4 years.
So it's truly never too late to get significant benefits.
Never too late. And some benefits are almost instant.
Like what?
Within minutes, literally minutes of your last cigarette, your heart rate and blood pressure start to normalize. Circulation improves.
That fast.
That fast.
Wow.
Within hours, the carbon monoxide levels in your blood drop, so oxygen delivery gets better. Within weeks, you notice less phlegm, less coughing and wheezing. Within months, your lung function improves measurably.
You can actually feel those changes pretty quickly then.
Many people do. It's very motivating.
Okay, now, there was a point in the chapter that seemed a bit counterintuitive about lung cancer risk increasing for smokers, even as overall rates went down.
Yes, that's a really concerning finding. Over the last 50 years, smoking rates have decreased, which is great. But for the people who are still smoking, their individual risk of getting lung cancer or COPD seems to have actually gone up.
How is that possible?
And the type of lung cancer has shifted too, from mostly squamous cell carcinomas to more adenocarcinomas, which sometimes have worse outcomes.
Why? What's changed?
The chapter suggests it's likely due to changes in cigarettes themselves. Different designs, maybe different tobacco blends or additives, increased toxicity. And maybe even changes in how deeply people inhale now compared to decades ago. It's complex, but it means modern cigarettes might be even more dangerous in some ways.
So fewer people smoking, but potentially riskier for those who do. Grim. What about the bigger picture? Global impact, economic cost.
The scale is immense. Globally, we're talking about 1.3 billion smokers. Billion.
1.3 billion people.
And the tobacco industry is valued at something like $663 billion, projected to hit $1 trillion soon. That includes cigarettes, cigars, pipes, chew, e-cigarettes, the whole lot.
$1 trillion industry. And the cost to society here in the U.S.
It's enormous. Over $300 billion wasted every year because of smoking.
$300 billion. How does that break down?
About $170 billion is direct medical care, treating the heart disease, the cancer, the COPD. And another $156 billion is lost productivity, people being too sick to work, dying prematurely.
Just a massive drain on resources and lives.
Huge drain. And one final point the chapter makes is about getting help to quit.
Right. People try to quit, but do they seek help?
Often no. Less than a third of adult smokers who try to quit actually use proven methods like counseling or medication.
So most people are trying to go it alone.
Yeah, white-knuckling it.
Yeah.
And while that works for some, many more could succeed if they use the effective treatments that are available. There's a gap there in utilizing the best tools we have.
That's a really important point. Well, this deep dive into Chapter 44 of The 21st Century Man, it's been eye-opening. It really lays bare the truth about tobacco and just how far-reaching the consequences are.
It really does. It impacts your health, obviously, but also your quality of life, how long you live, your time with family. It's all connected. The chapter does a great job laying it all out.
It's a fantastic chapter and a really vital book. We absolutely recommend you pick up The 21st Century Man, explore this chapter, explore the others. It's just packed with valuable information for any guy wanting to take control of his health.
Definitely worth the read.
So as you listen to this, Think about those stats. Think about that story of the doctor and the science of addiction. What really resonated with you? What questions pop into your head?
And hopefully this discussion leads into our next topic. Join us next time on the 21st Century Man podcast, where we'll tackle Chapter 45.
Which is perfectly timed. How to quit smoking.
Exactly. We'll explore the practical strategies, the support systems, the resources out there to help you, or maybe someone you care about, finally break free from tobacco.
Looking forward to that one. Thanks for tuning in.